motherfucker, you can't have my cornbread. That's for damn sure. Because if you try to take my cornbread, part 2 of my killing spree gonna begin up in here on your ass right now. If you think about my cornbread, get the taste out your mouth. That's for damn sure. Now fuck him, fuck that, because I'm from New York City, goddammit. Nobody take no cornbread from me. That goes for you and any of you motherfucking farmers wanna try some shit. You fuck around with me, it's gonna be consequences and repercussions.
Haters gonna hate, and ain'ters gonna ain't.
That is not an actual thing people say.
What's going on, family? It's your boy Trey Frazier, Maestro Styles, here with the Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast. Make sure y'all follow us on our social media on Instagram at Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast and also on Twitter at Barbershop SPOR2. We got a special guest in the building. She's a Carolina Panthers beat writer. Her name is Sheena Quick. Sheena, welcome to the show. We appreciate you joining us for a few minutes. How's everything going?
Everything is good. Thank you guys for having me.
No problem. So I want to get started with this, and we'll get to some Panthers talk in a minute. But I remember a few weeks ago, you had tweeted out that there was a mystery team that was involved or still interested in Deshaun Watson, despite all of the allegations that he's been going through up to this point. So my thing is this, and I'll, start off with the question. I'm of the mindset that Jalen Hurts for the Eagles is the starter. He should be, moving forward. There's a reason why they drafted him in the second round. In your opinion, why do you think the Eagles, aside from it being Deshaun Watson, he's a top 5 quarterback, why do you think the Eagles are still somewhat interested in Deshaun Watson despite the allegations that are going on?
I mean, just what you said. You feel like he's a top 5 quarterback. They feel like they have a lot of draft capital as far as assets, future picks, and Jalen Hurts is going to be phenomenal in his own time. And I think that that's very attractive trade offer for Houston. It's not going to cost them a lot because Jalen Hurts is still on his rookie deal. So it makes sense when you kind of put all those different pieces together. I know that a lot of times people, especially fans and like media, they feel like a team is married to a quarterback because of where they drafted him. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes that's not. Because when they drafted Jalen Hurts, Deshaun Watson hadn't publicly said he wanted to be traded. So I don't think you can omit the idea or the fact that he is Deshaun Watson. That is inexplicably why they are willing to trade Jalen Hurts. Just because it's Deshaun, you just cannot omit that factor and say, well, besides it being Deshaun, you can't. You can't, because you don't know what they would have been willing to give up for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is on the move. Yep. But aside from him, that's the huge factor that you can't omit when discussing why the Eagles would want to trade Jalen Hurts. I think you have to look at it as not so much as why they want to trade Jalen Hurts, but more so why they want Deshaun Watson. I think that Jalen Hurts is just a piece of collateral in this entire situation. And I hate to phrase it that way or, refer to a human as collateral, but we're talking about trade assets. And when you think about it, that's a very attractive deal for Houston. You're trying to build your team up. You need those hella draft picks. It's been a dumpster fire in Houston for the last couple of seasons. So you need those. That's very attractive to you. You get a quarterback for cheap that could end up being your franchise quarterback. Get rid of Deshaun and whatever potential problems he could possibly pose in the legal aspect. We haven't really heard much about that since the names of the accusers were made public. But if you're Houston, I don't see how you don't make the deal. You have a disgruntled quarterback that does not want to be there. You can mold Jalen Hurts to be exactly who you need him to be, and you can draft up your team to be a contender if the rumored, trades or the rumored future picks are, in fact true, and that's what Philly is willing to deal. It's a no-brainer for Houston for me, from where I sit, but I don't cover Houston. I'm just telling you guys what I see from the outside looking in. Like, why not get a quarterback that you can groom to be your franchise quarterback? You can get them cheap, and you get hella picks. So,
and to add more than that, I mean, it's a win for Philly. Damn all that, it's a win for Philly.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
definitely a win for Philly because win, lose, the draw. He's Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
He's Deshaun Watson. You've added Devontae Smith.
Absolutely. I guess my thing is that the Eagles came out and was like, "Yo, Jalen Hurts is our starter," and I get
that's what they supposed to say.
I know.
Look, that being said, when we landed, this is right pre-COVID. When we landed in Indianapolis in 2020 for the combine, we landed to the news that the Panthers were saying that Cam Newton was their guy.
Mm-hmm.
Less than a month later, he wasn't their guy. Wasn't even on the roster anymore. So people are going to say they're supposed to say he's their starter and he's their quarterback, and they're throwing all the eggs in that basket. That's what you're supposed to do. It's your starting quarterback. I mean, and we're going to kind of get into that a little bit later as far as the Panthers and how they have handled quarterbacks. But you're absolutely supposed to publicly, even if y'all are squabbling in public, it's a united front. That's your quarterback until he's not. So I wouldn't really place too much emphasis on that because we see a lot of teams say one thing and do the complete opposite sometimes hours later. So
and getting to the Panthers quarterback situation, right? Why do you feel like they decided to move on from Teddy Bridgewater? Because I thought Teddy Bridgewater did a pretty good job, despite the injury to Christian McCaffrey. The defense wasn't all that great. They were in a lot of games last year. I mean, I remember the Kansas City game. They could have won that game. The opener against the Raiders, they could have won that game. Mm-hmm. Why do you think they decided to pull the trigger on Teddy?
Teddy didn't fit into what the Panthers needed him to fit into from the beginning. At the end of the day, like you said, he didn't have a horrible season. Because when you look at stats, we look at personal stats. And I know the quarterback gets a lot of the heat for wins and losses, but at the end of the day, there's 10 other offensive players on the field with him. There's 11 offensive players on the defensive side of the ball. So it's a team effort. It's easy to attribute those wins and losses to the quarterback. When things are going great, quarterback gets the praise. When they're going bad, quarterback gets the blame. And that just comes with the position. But like you said, and I've been hammering this home to Panthers fans for the longest, I don't understand why they were so irate with Teddy Bridgewater's performance, because Teddy did what he's always done. He didn't bait and switch him. He didn't say, he didn't come into these lofty expectations. He's going to have, a 30, 40, 50 touchdown season. His career high was 14. He got you 15 last year.
Yeah.
He had the most passing yards in his entire career. But again, he's playing within the realm of who Teddy Bridgewater is. And in Minnesota, a lot of different pieces around him were put into place. So again, you look at those win-loss counts, you're like, he was balling in Minnesota. He was doing what he did last year for the Panthers. It just wasn't enough. And it wasn't enough to overcome the youth of that team last year. And I thought that was a really, really tall order to task him with, even though Cam Newton went out injured. Those were huge shoes to fill. So he came in behind the 8 ball. He came in not being as, he didn't have a reputation for being mobile like Cam and getting you the rushing yards that Cam Newton would get you, or, throwing on the screen. He didn't have that level of athleticism that Panthers fans had grown accustomed to pre-Cam Newton injury. But Teddy Bridgewater was Teddy Bridgewater, and you can't really hold that against him. I hope he has an amazing career, in Denver, because it is very impressive what he was able to, bounce back from injury-wise. A lot of people that end their career. Is very impressive, but I think that Panthers fans, their expectations were a little too high just because, Cam was out the door. And unfairly to Teddy, people are going to always tie those two together because they gave Cam Newton permission to seek a trade and then sign Teddy Bridgewater either later that day or the next day. So those two are going to be tied together and compared anyway, even though they're two entirely different types of quarterbacks. But that was just unfortunate for Teddy. He walked into a very tough situation. New coaches, only rookies were drafted, in the draft, and I'm not saying, well, of course, only rookies were drafted in the draft, but only defensive players.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all know what I meant. Only defensive players were added in the draft. You have the injury to Christian McCaffrey. The Panthers still hadn't addressed their O-line disparities. So there's a lot of factors that factor into how people perceive Teddy Bridgewater's time to have been in Carolina. But I've said it time and time again, Teddy Bridgewater was Teddy Bridgewater. He was, in my opinion, expected to kind of be a bridge quarterback until they found or drafted their forever quarterback. That's why it was a little vexing that they traded for Sam Darnold when they did.
I was just about to ask you.
Yeah.
I was just about to ask you. Do you think they gave up too much for him?
Do I think what?
Do you think that they gave up too much for Sam Darnold?
They shouldn't have got Sam Darnold.
Man, they left you speechless, huh?
No, it's just that they were literally looking at upside when it comes to Sam Darnold. And I feel like Matt Rule is on the hot seat if Sam Darnold does not succeed, because that's 2 quarterback trades in 2 years that did not go well. But to add insult to injury, if Justin Fields balls out in Chicago, David Tepper, I don't feel like David Tepper is going to be all that happy. And I will say this, but the disclaimer, guys, is of course, they're not in pads yet. They're not hitting. They're not touching. I have not been impressed by Sam Darnold in OTAs or minicamp. Too many tip passes at the line, a couple interceptions, throwing into, tight coverage. And, but those are timing things that can be fixed. That's what they go to training camp for. And we won't be able to really assess where he is until people are in pads and you get to really see if that O-line is going to give him the protection that he needs, because right now in OTA they aren't. But that's just
okay. Can I backtrack for a second? So you said, I guess this is my conspiracy theory, and you could tell me I'm dead wrong, and I'll accept it. So they get rid of Cam Newton and bring in Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy B.
So do you think that, and obviously you're closer to it than I am, do you think they brought in token black quarterback to kind of keep fans interested because black quarterbacks stereotypically can run and they're a little more exciting per se, stereotypically? Do you think that they brought in Teddy Bridgewater because of that token experience, because they knew what was going to happen with Cam Newton, or they had they read the tea leaves of what was going to happen with Cam Newton?
No, I don't. I don't think race played a factor because, like you said the stereotype is that they're exciting, they're electrifying. Teddy Bridgewater is safe. Mm-hmm. He's a safe quarterback. He's not going to take too many risks. At the times that he did, it was catastrophic. I know everybody remembers that Green Bay game where he tried to bloop and he fumbled, and that just changed the whole trajectory of that game. They should have won that one too. But no, I don't. I don't think the race really played a factor. I think it was more so his ties to Joe Brady. The fact that they had worked together in New Orleans. So I think that was more so a factor in the decision, way more than, being a token black quarterback. Because again, athletically, they're very different. Socially, Cam Newton and Teddy Bridgewater are very different. Now, Cam, for the large part of his career, he's always been politically correct when it comes to race issues. Teddy Bridgewater, although he's not outspoken and as much as an extrovert as Cam was, you knew where he stood on social issues and he did not back down. So it was just 2 entirely different personalities. The media loved Teddy Bridgewater, and Charlotte media, as I've said time and time again, there's people in parts of Charlotte media that I felt just didn't like Cam Newton. They were still talking about him this season, even though he's in New England. So I think that Teddy Bridgewater was safer than Cam Newton in terms of like the personality wise, because not for nothing. When Fitzpatrick, you remember when Fitzpatrick wore Deshaun's his drip, post-game drip, and everybody was like, oh my God, it's so cool.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cam Newton gets criticized for dressing how he wants to dress. Like, there is definitely a different set of standards when it comes to black quarterbacks versus white quarterbacks, because as the face of your franchise, they feel like you're supposed to fit into a certain mold. Cam Newton did not do that. You know, he
Right.
started growing his dreads. Oh,
Yep.
he's this, he's that. He started growing his dreads. He is unapologetically himself. He's going to wear what he wants to wear. If he scores, he's in your face. You know, he's cocky with it, but he was backing it up for a large part of his career. So there's just two totally different players and men. Not a knock on either one, but they're just two totally different personalities to the point where I don't think that Teddy could slide in as a token because he was, other than race, he's completely different from Cam Newton.
It's interesting you say that about Teddy Bridgewater because I never heard him say anything. So it's interesting that you have that perspective, obviously from covering him, but I don't know what his stance is on anything. So
he's
you
very
just gave me
pro-black.
game.
He's very Black Lives Matter. He's not rah-rah in your face with it, but he doesn't run from the question. The question's going to be asked. Right. He doesn't run from the question. He doesn't run from the issue. He does not separate himself from other Black people because he's an athlete. And not to say that Cam does.
Yeah,
not to say that Cam does. I'm just saying that these are the things that I witnessed from Teddy more so from instead of like an anti-Cam Newton stance. And that's how the Charlotte media played it a lot. They were, Teddy's a team first guy, you know, unlike Cam who needed attention. Like there were so many digs continued to be taken at Cam Newton, even though he was minding his business. So
I mean, it's I would never tell Cam Newton to not be who he is, but I mean, I'm sure he know at this stage of his life that that's what come with it. But yeah.
I mean, I think so because he catches slander from everywhere, and I don't think you've ever really seen Cam Newton take a shot back. People don't ever talk about that. But he doesn't, you've never really seen him take a shot back. He's still getting dogged for being emotional and walking out of the Super Bowl, the post Super Bowl presser, when he had just lost the biggest game of his life. Right. So, again, there's just such a super short leash on Black quarterbacks athletically and personally in the media. And it is what it is. It's unfair. I hope that as we start to see more Black faces in the front offices and on the sidelines, hopefully that's a narrative that can change because it's definitely a top-down approach. If you think about it, how many Black offensive coordinators are there?
Not a lot.
There's two.
Not a
lot. One of them won the Super Bowl and was still mistaken for the defensive quarterback, the defensive coordinator. Even though he was, Byron Leftwich had an awesome career. Like he had a notable career.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? He had a notable
from the
career.
area.
But until you get, Black offensive coordinators, that's when you're going to see more Black quarterbacks and, just a different acceptance because it's definitely top down. I mean, and even with the Black coordinators, I know we're not talking about this particularly, but that's why you don't see a ton of Black head coaches because often that career path is offensive coordinator to head coach because everybody's talking about the brilliant offensive minds. Hell, Joe Brady was getting head coaching interviews.
And Sheena, this is one of the reasons why, and we talk about this on the podcast a lot. I'm looking for Black ownership in the NFL in terms of owning a franchise. And I understand that there's not a lot of us that have the bag to really go get a franchise. It's going to take a group of people to form an investment team to do so. But
they tried to.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that day. I'm waiting for that day.
They tried to when it came to the Panthers. But again, like you said, you got to be able to pay to play, but you also have to be approved.
Be inducted into the boys club. Yep.
You have to be approved. Like, of course, everybody saw the particulars of when David Tepper brought the team, but it wasn't until the league spring meetings that he got the confirmation that, they voted to approve his purchase. So again, it's a top-down thing, man. I know we were talking about Teddy and talking about Black quarterbacks, but that all just goes hand in hand.
It all goes hand in hand, yeah.
Until you see that top-down, you're going to continue to see people talk trash and demean Black quarterbacks. I mean, for what you said, Deshaun Watson's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, and he's very knowledgeable. He can read coverages in an instant. He's very knowledgeable. But that didn't stop a Houston superintendent from talking trash about Black quarterbacks and their ineptitude to learn. Like he forgot that he even posted it.
Right.
Like, what was it? It was saying like if you want such and such, then don't get a black quarterback. Like if you want intelligence or something like that,
Right.
don't get a black quarterback. I forget the exact quote. I put it in my Revolt article. Shameless plug there, but definitely check out the
shameless
Revolt article.
plug all over. We here for that. Shameless plug all over the joint.
Yeah, I did a story called "The Plight of the Black Quarterback," where it delved into things like the Rooney Rule, things like lack of melanin when it comes to these head coaching and these offensive coordinator positions, and how that has affected black quarterbacks. And I mean, honestly, I think that people can say, "Oh, no, that's not true," because you had was 2020, you had Lamar Jackson as the MVP, you had Patrick Mahomes as the Super Bowl MVP, and then you had Kyler Murray as Rookie of the Year. That's 3 black quarterbacks, but that still doesn't mean that reputation has been disproven yet.
No, not yet, and we got years to go before.
Right, because we didn't get here in 2-3 years, so we're not going to get out of it in 2 to 3 years. Right. But definitely need to see more black faces on the sidelines instead of just being a sense of defensive backs or defensive court. Like they need to be in line for these head
running back coaches.
Yeah.
And Sheena, I say this a lot, Sheena, but Jameis Winston led the league in passing his final year in Tampa, and he ends up getting a 1-year, $1 million deal to back up Drew Brees. Like that just seems crazy to me.
More so than him getting the 1 year to back up Drew Brees. I'm more offended about the fact that they started Taysom Hill over him.
Yeah, facts.
In Drew Brees' absence, because what?
Facts.
Like what?
Yeah.
The disrespect. Yeah.
It was absolute disrespect. But I don't know if you guys are planning on talking about the NFC South, but I think that Jameis is going to have a breakout year in New Orleans under Sean Payton.
I think so too.
I
think so too.
I hope you're right.
That's a team to watch out for. They got.
It's definitely a team to watch out for sure. They get Michael Thomas back healthy. They have Alvin Kamara. Then they do have Taysom Hill. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he just don't need to be starting quarterback.
He's a gimmick quarterback.
He needs to come in for trick plays the way he's been doing. Like stay in your lane.
Right.
I mean, he's getting paid handsomely. You talk about Jameis's contract, and then you talk about Taysom's.
Yeah.
Well, they tried to report that as a fake contract, but who knows what the hell's going on behind the scenes? Yeah.
I like Shawty energy. I ain't gonna lie to you. Hey, can we get back to Carolina? Because I want to. I want you to tell me about while we digging into the black versus white quarterback play. Can you tell me how you think Sam Darnold is going to do, and is Carolina fans going to miss Teddy Bridgewater soon?
Well, I can start by saying I don't think they're going to miss Teddy.
Okay.
That was a bad breakup. Mm-hmm. They're not going to miss Teddy. They may get to 500, but at the end of the day, is that enough? Sam Darnold.
Not when you got Tom Brady in the division.
Darnold, it's not going to be enough when you have Tom Brady, and for what it's worth, you got Jameis Winston. You have Matt Ryan. Of course, the Falcons are always going to Falcon. That's just how it is.
That's a fact.
But
that's a fact.
Matt Ryan's going to get his yards. He's going to get his yardage. Like that. That's one thing he's going to do. He's going to get off on that yardage. He's gonna get his stats. It might not translate into a win.
Julio going.
He
might not get it this year. Julio
Kyle Pitts. Enter Kyle Pitts and Calvin Ridley. All good things must come to an end.
That's true.
Football is a slow churn.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah, word.
So, I went briefly Twitter and IG digging when we heard that we had the interview. I just went briefly. I ain't go too crazy. But I noticed the constant theme of track. So I would have to assume that you ran track at some day in your life. Tell me about it a little bit.
Many moons ago, but I ran track at NC State and Florida State. So I used to be a sprinter back in the day. I don't run anything but my mouth these days. That's it. I run nothing but my mouth these days. But I get my fill of track from my boys. They're coming into their own, and they're competing in AAU track. So I still get my track fix from watching them.
That's what's up. And then we got I'm about to mess Shorty first name up, Miss Richardson, who is
Sha'Carri.
who is Sha'Carri, and she's dominating right now. Going to Tokyo, if I'm not mistaken. How you feeling about that? Tell me what's going on. Because I'm gonna tell you one thing. I seen Shorty she still had the wig in, looking fire, nails like Shorty doing it.
I love her. I love her energy. I feel like, of course, track and field. We've had Allison Felix for 5. This is her 5th Olympics coming up. Phenomenal talent. Sha'Carri Richardson is a breath of fresh air that I feel like you haven't really seen that kind of vibrato in American sprint since like Maurice Green.
Wow.
FloJo. Of course, you're going to see the FloJo comparisons with the hair and the nails.
Yeah,
legend.
Sis is fly. Sis is fly, okay? She's not playing with y'all. I love that she's unapologetically herself. I mean, she took a couple knocks, but she'll get back going into a back and forth with people on Twitter. But you get the old heads that are like, oh, she needs to be humble or she's not focused. You can be focused and still tell people that they got you effed up. It's called balance.
That's a fact.
And she's talking the talk. She's walking the walk. I love everything about Sha'Carri Richardson. I love that she is unapologetically herself. I hope she does amazing in Tokyo. Honestly, in my opinion, that's her race to lose. The Jamaicans are going to come with it. I love Shelly Ann Fraser-Price. They're going to come with it. I think before Sha'Carri, she was my number 1. But I got to go with the home team. She's doing amazing to only be 21 years old. Lost her mom, her biological mother, a week ago, and still went out there and crushed it like that. I love everything about it. I love that she's pointing at the clock. She's cheering before she finishes the race. So we don't even know how fast this woman can go. She went 10:65, like pointing at the clock the last 20 meters or so. So
right.
The world record, if I'm not mistaken, is still held by FloJo at 10:49. So that could be in jeopardy. And I think she is the person that's best in place to, obliterate that. So I'm definitely Team Sha'Carri all the way.
No doubt. Did I miss something, Sheena? Are you of Jamaican descent?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. When you said, she gonna bring it home, I thought you were saying that she's from your hometown or something.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm from North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
From High Point.
Okay.
Home of Fantasia.
North Carolina in the building.
Like I said, home of Fantasia. That's our claim.
Oh, say that then.
No, I'm from North Carolina, but yeah, I'm definitely rooting for Sha'Carri in Tokyo for real.
No doubt. Hey, Sheena, why don't you go ahead and let the listeners know where they can find you on social media and some of your other platforms. I know you're on radio also, and you do have a blog on revolt.tv. Is that right?
Well, I have a sports column, a biweekly sports column, and it's called The Halftime Report. And I just kind of write about everything. Okay. I just did a story on transgender rights in sports. And it's such a sticky topic. I'm like, man, don't y'all cancel me. But
I wish I would have read that before we came on, because I'm for the smoke. I ain't that famous yet. I ain't got nothing to lose.
It hasn't been published yet. It'll come out soon. But it just examines both sides of the argument. It should probably publish between today and tomorrow. But it equally looks at both sides of the argument. Like, inclusiveness can't come at the expense of fairness for the other group, in my opinion. That's why it's such a really, really tight woven line between, it being fair for, this is another term, cisgendered women. That means women that identify with the gender that they were assigned at birth, and transgender women. Bills that there's like about 35 bills right now trying to ban or prohibit or limit transgender women participating in female sports, just because it gives them an unfair advantage, because they do still have the levels of testosterone. The levels that we're really seeing it at are middle school and high school is where the legislation is kind of aimed at. And most times transgender women have not gone through any type of transition. So they still have normal male levels of testosterone in their body, which helps them to, of course, build muscle mass and recover faster. So they can train harder, they can train more often. And it unevens the playing field.
Yeah, 100%.
The NCAA is offering they have to take testosterone suppression pills or some other way of suppressing the testosterone for a year. That's what the NCAA is proposing. But how do you even get looked at by the NCAA if transgender males that still have testosterone are whooping your ass.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fucking fact.
There's sides to those arguments. You never want anybody to be left out. Of course, equality for all. There's so many different sticky parts and components of it that it's going to be hard to kind of navigate. But I do see that people are committed to trying to get close to appeasing both parties. I don't know when it's going to happen, how soon it's going to happen, or if it's even possible. But I do know that there is legislation in place as well as groups that are trying to find a happy medium. So that was my latest topic.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that there's going to be a happy medium. I think
it's going to be very difficult to achieve. It is.
Yeah, I think people are going to have to. Some people are just going to have to be mad, and time heals all wounds because, not the. I already see the remaining meeting time. I already know, but what I'll say to that is. You're right. But what I say, because you know me, because I'll start the rambling, and next thing you know, we'll be 25.
I do too, because I was supposed to be telling y'all how I felt about the Panthers' upcoming season. I done talked to y'all about everything else.
Hey, no, it's all good.
Listen.
It's all good. We appreciate it.
Fine. That's fine. I appreciate the organic conversation more than the scheduled conversation. So, so that's where I'm at with it. But the thing is that with all this unfair advantage, I guess the roles that might grow from it is that, for instance, if I'm to use the WNBA as an example, not a lot of people are viewing it, even though it's like getting better. It's like really at an all-time high right now. But God forbid, and I don't really mean God forbid, but let's say a LeBron James talent gets into the WNBA.
So in other words, Joanna Man.
Right. Imagine if that happens, and then now, when you get that type of talent into the WNBA, now all of a sudden people are watching the WNBA because Joanna Man is jumping out the gym, and now nobody has to complain anymore. So so as unfair as it'll be.
For what it's worth, you got Brittany Griner.
Yeah, Brittany Griner's there, but I don't feel like Brittany Griner like going crazy though.
Yeah, she don't pop off the screen like a LeBron James or anybody athletic would do.
If someone like that, if there's a transgender woman that enters the WNBA, again, I think that they're going to have some type of legislation governing the levels of testosterone. Like, for instance, track is governed by World Athletics. It used to be called the IAAF. They changed the name to World Athletics. Right now, they have guidelines where you can't have a certain amount of testosterone, like over a certain limit. And they have actually cut that in half since 2015. 2015, it was like 10 nanometers per liter. Now it's 5 nanometers per liter. You actually have a South African Olympic champion, Caster Semenya, who was fighting for 12 years. I don't know if you guys remember her. She's not transgender, but she is has like a deviation of sexual development. She's legally a woman, but she has testes. And so she also has testosterone. So she's been fighting back and forth trying to retain eligibility after she won the 2012 and 2016 Olympics. She's always kind of ineligible. They ruled her completely ineligible for middle distance because they actually have different parameters for each event, which makes sense.
Yeah.
So she had to move up to the 5K to try to make it to Tokyo, and she failed because that's not her event. We went from the 800 meters to the 5K.
500, right.
They even had tried to make her take a contraceptive pill a couple years back, and she had really, really down and off years because it was suppressing her testosterone. So if you get a situation in the WNBA where they say, hey, it can't exceed this level and you have to be on hormone suppression for X amount of time before you can compete, that's in an effort to make it mimic as closely biologically to a woman as can be so that the playing field is a bit more level. So that's the happy medium that they're trying to get to, but it only exists right now in world athletics. I don't know what other sports they have placed those parameters, but if you do see something like that happen, where you might be a LeBron level talent, and then you take her testosterone away once she identifies as a transgender female, and perhaps that takes away some strength, perhaps that takes away some of, you get what I'm saying? So that's been the idea.
So you're proposing that there probably won't be a Joanna man by the time they figure this all out.
I definitely don't think it'll be a Joanna man. It's not going to be like a Medea situation where somebody just puts on a dress and says, "Hey, I'm a girl."
Right.
Like, it's not that
Right.
situation. It's going to be a situation where this person identifies as a woman, feels that they are inherently a woman. Therefore, they're going to have to suppress their testosterone levels if they want to compete against women.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Wow.
Gotcha.
Well, Sheena.
So we got into that conversation trying to let you plug your stuff.
Yeah, basically.
We did. My bad.
Basically.
But I love it. I
bad.
personally love it.
My bad. But I am on Instagram and Twitter at Sheena_Marie, the number 3, the screen name for both of those. I have the biweekly sports column on Revolt TV. It publishes every other Wednesday. It's called Halftime Report. You guys can check that out. My Vashti Hurt and I do a joint podcast that's on the Riot Network. That's our Panthers podcast. It's called Quick Blitz. I am a regular contributor to Fox Sports 1340. That's the radio. And I also have Quick Out the Blocks. That's my own personal website where I kind of just house my freelance work. So yeah.
All right. No
That's
doubt.
me in a nutshell.
No doubt. No
That's
doubt.
what's
Well,
up. That's
look,
what's
Sheena,
up.
we appreciate the time. We thank you for coming on here and, giving us some gems and some information. And we definitely looking forward to that story.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being with us.